guys, welcome. It's Friday and I am so excited. Today we're going to talk through everyone is working, nothing is improving. My name is April and this is the Revenue Governor. Let's get started and jump into it. Everyone looks busy, right? Calendars are full, dashboards are active, pipeline reviews, they're happening. Managers, they're coaching, reps, they're updating notes in that CRM. I don't know if you use Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever you use, they're updating, right? On the surface, it looks healthy, doesn't it? The same deals, though, they are stalled. The same forecast misses, it keeps missing. The same execution gaps, they're showing up every quarter. Nothing is actually changing. That's the problem. Your organization, you guys feel real productive. That doesn't mean the system is effective, though, does it? Activity, it's always and it's easily, I would say, mistaken for progress. You see, most organizations, they assume activity, it means momentum. The problem is, it doesn't. Sometimes activity is what hides the lack of progression. You see more meetings, you got more updates, you see more reporting. But where's the movement? The thing is, there's still no movement. And this is where teams kind of get trapped because the organization, it kind of feels productive, right? Everyone is moving along each day. Slack, it's active. Dashboards, they're updating. Managers, they're involved. Meetings, they are nonstop, right? Very little is actually improving though. Why does this feel healthy? Well, because movement creates emotional reassurance. If everyone is busy, leadership assumes the system is working. The problem is activity is one of the easiest things to manufacture inside an organization. Real progress, it's so much harder because real progress, it requires buyer movement, deal progression, execution improvement, clear qualification, even stronger inspection. A lot stronger inspection, right? Because you got to know what's happening. So think about it, right? That's so much harder than staying busy. So what do organizations do? So many organizations, they unconsciously optimize for visible effort instead. Let's do a micro scene here. So you're a manager, you're like, how's your pipeline looking? Your rep, they tell you I had 11 calls this week. You're like, great, good. Then you pause. 11 calls does not mean progression. Meetings are not progression. CRM updates, that's not progression. The only thing that matters is the buyer movement. Did the buyer move? So let's work through the data behind it. Research across B2B sales organizations, it consistently shows that reps spend a large portion of their time on internal activity. What does that mean? CRM updates, meetings, reporting, administrative work, literally internal coordination. Multiple industry studies over the last several years, they've actually estimated that direct selling time, it often represents less than 1/3 of a rep's actual work week. This matters. Now, why does this matter though, right? Because if the direct buyer interaction is limited, buyer movement is even more limited. And if the buyer movement is low, the deal is not progressing, no matter how active the organization actually looks internally. So when they tell you they have 11 calls, think about that for a moment. What exactly does that mean? Now, this is where organizations slowly lose efficiency. It's not because people stop working. It's because internal operational weight keeps increasing. So you get more systems, more reporting layers, more approvals, more meetings. And eventually, the organization starts consuming its own time internally. Now the system spends more time managing actual work than it improves outcomes. That's a problem. So let's talk through the calendar reality. Look at most sales calendars. You see internal sync, you see a forecast call, maybe a pipeline review, an enablement meeting, CRM cleanup, leadership update. Then leadership will ask, why aren't deals moving? Well, because most of the system is interacting with itself, not the buyer. There's visibility without enforcement. This is where leadership usually responds the wrong way. They increase visibility, more dashboards, more reviews, more check-ins, but they don't enforce different standards. So what happens? Behavior never changes. The system adapts instead. Reps, they learn how to stay busy. Managers learn how to stay involved. Leadership sees movement. Nothing improves. Not actually. Visibility, it may feel like control, right? But that's the trap. Visibility creates the feeling of control. Now, why does that happen? Well, because leaders can see more metrics, more dashboards, more reporting. But visibility without enforcement changes absolutely nothing. Seeing the issue is not the same as correcting it. And many organizations stop at awareness because enforcement, what does it do? We've talked about it. It creates friction. All right, let's just make this a little real and talk through a leadership review. Your leader says conversion is down. You say, yeah, we're seeing that too. Your leader says we need to improve pipeline quality. Meeting ends. Nothing changes. No standards shift. No inspection changes. No behavior gets corrected. So next week, what's going to happen? Well, things are going to look the same, aren't they? This is operational theater. Everything looks active. The organization feels engaged, but underneath all of that, conversion stays flat and deals keep stalling. Cycles are extending. Forecasts will continue to miss, which means revenue will miss because the activity is disconnected from actual accountability. And that, my friends, that is the dangerous part. A system can look really healthy for a long time while slowly losing effectiveness underneath it. Why does the theater survive then, right? Have you thought about it? Operational theater survives because it creates comfort. Everyone feels involved. Everyone feels informed. Everyone feels productive. But productivity without outcome improvement is noise, and it's really noisy. Over time, though, organizations normalize that noise. The meetings become routine. The dashboards, they're routine. The forecasts miss. It becomes routine, and you all sit and talk about it in the meeting. Eventually, nobody questions why the system keeps producing the same problems repeatedly. And if you're an organization that has to scale and you have to improve your numbers to become profitable, this really becomes an issue, right? Because before you know it, everyone has lost their job. So let's talk through another repeated fail pattern. The quarter ends, forecast misses, leadership, they respond, we need more pipeline. So activity is going to increase. You get more outbounds, you get more meetings, you see more reporting. Next quarter, the same execution gap though. Why? Well, because the issue was never volume, it was control. Control does not come from visibility alone. It comes from enforcement, and a lot of people, a lot of leaders struggle with enforcement. What gets inspected consistently changes. What gets tolerated, it will repeat, and it will continue to repeat. That's the difference between active organizations and effective organizations. One is going to produce movement. The other is going to produce noise. Now let's talk about why, right? Because enforcement is not aggressive. It's consistent. What does it look like? Well, challenging deals that are weak, requiring evidence for deals, removing stalled deals that have just been sitting in your pipeline, inspecting the actual buyer movement, maybe even changing the standards when behavior breaks. Every time, not occasionally, every time. Because systems learn through what? Repetition, not intention. That's the system that's hiding in the failure. Most organizations think they have an execution problem. Often they have a standards problem. The expectation sounds clear, but the behavior is being tolerated. Well, that behavior says something different. Weak deals are staying. Forecast assumptions, they survive without evidence. Meetings continue without outcomes changing. And the organization slowly trains itself. Busy becomes acceptable, even when performance is not improving. There's a difference in motion and progress. Motion looks like calls, meetings, updates, reviews. Progress, on the other hand, well, that consists of buyer movement, deal advancement, conversion improvement, forecast accuracy. Those are not the same thing. And confusing them is where organizations slowly lose their control. Effective organizations reduce operational noise. They inspect fewer things more deeply. They focus on buyer movement. not internal motion. Their forecast conversations are a lot shorter because the deals are clearer. Their pipeline reviews, they're even tighter because weak deals get removed way earlier. Their meetings produce actual decisions, not discussions. That's the difference. Take your last pipeline review. Ask one question. How much of this conversation was about buyer movement versus internal activity? Most organizations realize really quickly they spend more time discussing the process than the progression. And that is the signal. Everyone is working, nothing is improving. That's not an effort problem. That's a control problem. If activity is not tied to standards, inspection, or enforcement, it does not improve your outcomes. It just makes the organization look busy. The system feels active, but that does not mean it's active. If you're responsible for performance and want to see where your system is breaking, the Arbiter Diagnostic, as always, is linked in the description. Until next time.